We have time. We don't need to.
Recording in progress.
All right. Welcome everybody back if you're still with us. If not, we're going to call this qathet Regional District Board Regional Board meeting to order Wednesday, May 28th. First order is just acknowledging that we are holding the meeting on the traditional territory of Tla'amin First Nation. And obviously I'm not Chair Brander. So Chair Brander is unavailable. We have alternate Williams here today, and I'm sitting in as alternate chair, so you'll have to put up with me today. So apologize for that in advance. First order of business, approval of the agenda. Mover.
I'll move.
Director McCormick, Director Gisborne, everybody was raising their hands there. Any discussion on the agenda? Yes, Director.
I'll just be very brief. In relation to item 13.1, which is meetings with the ministries, there was a motion passed at the committee of the whole like half an hour ago. But I think we've heard from our staff, our corporate officer, that the deadline is July the 2nd. So we don't necessarily need it on today's agenda. So I think that's going to be coming up in the future. Is that correct?
Yep, I'm good with that if everybody else is. Okay, thank you for that.
I'm happy.
All right, I'll move to adoption of the agenda. Is unanimous, I think. Okay, we got there. Raising your hand. Adoption of the minutes. Are there any errors or omissions of our last meeting? Seeing none, do I have a mover to adopt? Director Elliott, Director Gisborne, any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Carried. Thank you. No delegation. Correspondence. Anybody want to relieve or remove any of these from correspondence? Director Gisborne.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull the first one about the invasive mussels.
6-1 will become 7-1. Anybody else? No, 7-1. It's all yours.
Yeah, I got a question. So Wildlife Act, blah, 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 blah. And then they got two things. One is enforce, pull the plug, a requirement of all drain plugs on vessels to be pulled prior to moving from the water body. Sounds great, but I don't think you're going to get the staff out at every single water body. The second one is of interest. Require motorists transporting a watercraft in BC to stop at open watercraft inspection stations. I guess my question is, do we have any of those within our region or at the ferry terminals or anything like that? Because you can write legislation, but I don't have any way to.
Well, if that's a question for our staff, I'm not sure who could answer it. I don't think there is any in our area, but do we have any staff that would know that even? No.
Okay. Sure.
So I think we could find out.
Yeah, because otherwise I would be willing to, send a response saying that we ask that the province create an open watercraft inspecting station at Sultry Bay or something like that, so that when things come into our region, in case there is contaminants on those vessels, that we can catch them before a small problem becomes a very substantial invasive problem. But I think that's a little ahead of our time right now, and I guess
So I was going to suggest a
notice of motion another meeting.
Director, no.
I think that might be a good idea, and we've got the good luck to be serviced by ferries. It's about the only way you can get here. And to have a mobile inspection team setting up at different ferry terminals seems like a great idea to me.
Director Elliott.
Make more sense to set those up on the mainland before boats leave, like at Suas and Horseshoe Bay. Although they're busy and crowded there, that would protect or even land or all the landing spots. But the various different islands all go through those main ports in Vancouver.
Good.
Right? And so it's just people towing boats, it's not everybody. Just as a thought for your notice of motion, Sultry Bay doesn't help the lower Sunshine Coast, whereas inspection before that point would make more sense.
Thanks. And I just add that what I like is the education for people, because if you don't understand what the ramifications of not draining your boat or not doing some of this stuff, and I have seen some what look like inspection stations, or at least information in provinces. So as or interprovincial, that's good. And there's been some successes in the interior by being tight on these controls. So I just wanted to. Anything else on that one? Good. All right. Chair's report. Apparently we do have a chair's report. I'll let Director Williams speak for Clay, I guess.
Yeah, this is his report in his words. I'm just going to read it as is. So
See if your accent, you can sound like him.
May 2nd, Red Dress Walk, participated in the walk, bringing attention to women, girls, and Two-Spirited from across Canada. May 3rd, attended the unveiling of new mural and the display of the archaeological study on Muskeety, as well as some awesome lunch. But I'll let Director Falls speak more on that. Thanks to the Tla'amin Nation for allowing me to hitch a ride over. Their hospitality was very much appreciated. May 8th, participated in a phone call with Director Lennox, QRD staff members and members of the Tla'amin Nation staff regarding education, the public of archaeological sites. I imagine Director Lennox will have much more to add to that, so I'll leave it to him. May 12th, library trustees, business as usual. May 14th, participated communications training with the rest of the board and presenter from Justice Institute of British Columbia. I really appreciated the presentation and thought the trainer did a great job. I can't speak for everyone in the room, but I know that I'm going to make an effort to incorporate some of his suggestions with the hope of becoming a better listener and communicator. May 15th, attended a celebration at the SPCA where the new name BCSPCA qathet was unveiled on a new sign along with the First Nations artwork. Even though the day was wet, the crowd was excited. It's really fun to see so many businesses and organizations take on the name qathet for a number of reasons. May 16th, participated in a webinar for chairs and mayors that was headlined by the ministers Bowen Ma and Brittany Anderson. The topic of discussion was Bill 15, which will grant the province the ability to intervene in local government regulations and potentially fast-track infrastructure projects the province determines are important. There are a lot of questions to the ministers, and for good reason. This will be another bill to keep our eyes on. That's it, and I think they're voting on that today.
Yeah, I think you're right. I heard that on the radio.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Well, Director Dowd, do you have any report?
No, I don't.
No report.
Glad to be back.
Okay, good to see you.
Comfortable there.
Director Southcott got off the hook on that one. We'll go to Director McClellan.
Thank you, and I will be amazingly short for me.
Okay.
So attended the Veterans Dinner at the Legion on May the 3rd, so it was great, and I'm surprised at the number of people who actually are veterans living on Texada, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
On the 16th, small drum roll, the concession opened at Shelter Point Park. So there was really no concession at all last year, and there wasn't at all the year before. So it's very welcome. The food is terrific. I heartily recommend come on out to Shelter Point Park and have fish and chips or a burger. You will absolutely love it. So paid commercial has now ended. The Airport Advisory Committee met on the 20th, and They're continuing to look at various options for additional hangars on the property. Also, a group of volunteers sort of over the course of the last year or so have gotten together and kind of scrounged a few old bikes that were in decent shape to leave at the airport. So people who fly in for the day then can use the bikes and you know, return them to the airport. But it's been a bit of a struggle keeping them repaired. Thanks to Lot 6, the metal transfer station, a lot of parts have been easily found to keep the bikes going, which has been great. But they're asking for an additional $500 to be built into the budget next year, you know, to cover bike repairs so they can continue to offer that service. On the 25th, our farmers market opened. So Qathet is a happening place, let me tell you. I attended the Tourism Powell River meeting on the 26th. The welcome poll is expected the beginning of July. And then also on the 26th, I hosted a town hall meeting regarding the metal transfer station and implications related to that, and the solid waste regulation and TV bylaw. That's my report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And saw some correspondence from some of your folks about Lot 6 and
Yeah.
got lots of people talking. So thanks for that. Maybe move to Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. So on May the 3rd was this mural unveiling on the False Bay Wharf, which was fantastic. There were approximately almost 150 people on the wharf for the unveiling ceremony, which was really nice to see. It was really packed, and the mural itself is very beautiful. It's got some written text. It wraps around two sides of the storage shed, so taking an ugly corrugated shed and turning it into a beautiful piece of art. It's facing the water, so if you come in by boat, you see one of the ideas is that the main part of the mural people can see from their boats when they come in. Most of those people, at least 100, went to the hall afterwards for some songs and awards and to view the traveling Hawaii'ete Laskiti archaeological project, XLAP project, that is headed by Dr. Dana Lepovsky. That's a traveling exhibit that was in Ottawa for quite a few months, is in the Art Center on Laskiti. And maybe it'll end up in Powell River at some point. It was very nice to see the Tla'amin boat arrive in the morning. We had First Nations representatives from the Tla'amin, as well as Qualicum and maybe one other one. And to also see Chair Brander and Councillor Isaacson show up, and they were able to hitch a ride with the Tla'amin, which was nice, and enjoy seeing both of the celebrations. I think it was really great. On May the 12th, the Islands Trust had a local trust committee meeting. I usually try to attend. They give a spot for me to give a report, so I use that as an opportunity to talk about things that are semi-related to their work. Their main challenging issue was to address a private dock that was built a few years ago in contravention of the land use bylaw without a land use bylaw amendment permit. And that's been working its way up and down, and it's been very controversial because there's lots of people who want to allow it, and lots of people who don't want to allow it. And the most recent turn was that staff had a report, and after a review, they considered it to be in contravention of the OCP. And not only that, they identified some major issues related to reconciliation, in the sense that when someone builds a private dock without proper process, there is no consultation with First Nations that happens. So that's actually a fairly big hurdle or roadblock in my mind. That was difficult for them to deal with, and they did choose to not proceed any further with the land use bylaw amendment. So that means the dock remains in contravention, and the Islands Trust will take it down a different path. On May the 14th, I was up in Powell River for the Justice Institute training that Chair Brander talked about, which I found very good, and I think hopefully will feed into some of my communication skills a bit and improve. Every little improvement, even one thing, would be great. And I think I got a lot out of the session. And finally, the last item is a non-item, which is the coastal invasive species meeting was postponed due to a lack of quorum. In part, on my part, I wasn't able to be there because I was actually up in Powell River attending the Justice Institute meeting, but there seems like there was a couple other members that didn't show up, and so the meeting will be postponed till later. And that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I thought you were gonna say you weren't available because you were out cutting broom like I've been. I hate that stuff. Anyways, I appreciate anybody that's working.
There's almost no broom on Laskeety because
Oh,
of
that's good.
the feral sheep eat it.
Yes, well, maybe we need a few of those. Thank you.
They eat everything else too, so.
Director Gisborne, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, invasive species is always an important issue in Area B, of course, farming country. Don't get me started on some properties have a ton of it and some properties have none of it. So relatively brief report. Let's see, on the 13th, I know a lot of you folks went up to Malaspina Road. I ended up going to the Resource Recovery Center and getting a kind of more in-depth tour. So that's going to be more discussion next week's item because that's was it the bylaws and stuff that we're going to be discussing then. We then did the Justice Institute on the 14th, which other directors have spoken with. I found that very helpful. Hopefully it can help me speak more clearly and listen more intently. And I'll wait to hear what my wife says on whether or not that's successful. Then there was a couple of other things in relation to Vancouver Coastal Health and the Regional Hospital District. So I'll cover that one next month. We have our Regional Hospital District meeting because that would be more of the appropriate for that chair's report. Though I did unfortunately miss the local government liaison meeting last Friday due to just crazy stuff with my schedules and my phones being weird. Last Thursday, I did attend the Cabin Owners Association at the Carlson Club, which Director Lennox also attended. Oh, and I should also mention that on the 7th, I attended the opening of the gazebo on Texada Island. Oh, yeah. It wasn't planned. It was kind of a last minute thing because my mom was going over my little girl Marceline. We took her to the island on Monday and she doesn't speak, but then Tuesday she goes, "Oh, ocean, let's go." So she really wanted to go back on a ferry ride. And I was like, well, my mom's going over to Texada for the gazebo thing on Wednesday. So I was like, I got to take Marceline on the ferry ride. And I told them, I'm like, I'm not here as the director. I'm just here as the babysitter for Dan's granddaughter. And with that, that is the predominant amount of my director's report, other than, of course, there's tons of events going on in Area B. I'm not going to cover all of them, you know, farmers markets, things like that. And then this Sunday, I'm hosting another town hall.
That's right.
To talk about the issues related to Ministry of Transportation, active transportation corridors, which will come up when we have our meeting with Modi next week. And the other topic is Myrtle Pond and water system, just to make sure that those stay on our consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate my grandson also rules my life if he tells me what. Usually that's the direction we go. Director Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. So I did attend the local government BCH liaison meeting. I wrote notes, so I thought maybe I'd hit the highlights a little bit since we hadn't heard those yet. You start with, we had Penny Bellum has taken a secondment over to BSHS, whatever, and she's doing work over there, and I don't exactly know what that acronym is because I didn't write it down. But in her absence, Peter Edmonds and Darlene are trying to cover that off as vice presidents to cover for her. And so for the first time we had a meeting without Penny, and we had Peter and Darlene handling that, and I thought Darlene did a great job, and it was good to meet Peter. He was virtual, so we didn't get to shake hands or anything. They talked about the master plan being delayed a little bit longer because it was going to be better if they could get a few other things done first, and they only could resource certain things at once. The Seychelles one was going to be finishing up very soon, and then they had something else they had to do. I can't remember what she called it. I didn't write that exact thing down, but it had to do with safety. And so they were going to focus on that, and then our master planning big thing should be starting just after Christmas in the new year of 2026. And that's important for us because it does the overall master planning for our hospital services in the future. They are still working on the revisions over at the hospital. They finished most of the emergency room, and now they've moved to the waiting area triage section of the hospital, and that's why it looks the way it does right now. Modi Katla came to our meeting, and she talked a lot about various different statistics. She indicated our community belonging project that is wrapped up recently, that our community has a 10% higher than average reporting of feeling connected within the community. 41% report good mental health, and 30% report improved from a year ago. And the only thing where we didn't score quite well was 62% alcohol and use in the past month report is significantly higher than the rest of the province. So we have that happening here. Measles is just starting into British Columbia, and all of the vaccine clinics are wrapped up. So if people are worried about measles affecting their household, they should be able to have really good free access to the measles clinics through the usual avenues. They encourage, they're finding that the vaccines are working quite well for the measles. It is one of the ones where they're really, really effective. And we're hoping to increase the amount of vaccination for measles. So in the quick term, to try and cause that spreading of measles to be less problem here in British Columbia. There's also whooping cough or pertussis. It's not as concerning as the measles, but they're seeing a big rash of it, and so they encourage people to also vaccinate for that. It's another one that is concerning because young people don't really have a defense to that, and antibiotics don't work that well, and so vaccinating would be. The toxic drug response in qathet is reported as being impressive last year with a decrease, but qathet was looking to trend with the rest of the provinces down, but then had a couple of incidents late in the year, which caused it to be exactly the same as the year before. They're still waiting to see if that is a change in trend for us or whether it was just a blip. So she wasn't quite sure what to make of that. And she encouraged folks that didn't know about our education subcommittee at the CAT that the newsletter that we do there and the efforts that we're making through our monthly newsletter through the CAT is a really good source of information, and people should tune into that. And she was impressed when she was over there. They are looking to have the ability for compounding drugs coming to our community, which is helpful for people who are going to be having chemotherapy, not having to leave. They've increased access to specialist care through pediatrician coming every 2 months, as opposed to people always having to leave. There's rheumatology coming back to our community. And PICC lines therapy. Yeah. And there was an explanation of what that was, but I don't want to get it wrong. And I'm writing my notes and I got it, but I didn't get
it. Peripherally inserted centralized catheter.
There you go.
For people who have tough time getting an IV access, and it's huge for people's medical care, like huge.
Yeah. So if
you used to offer it,
if PICC lines therapy was not returned to our hospital, people get shipped out quite rapidly, right? And so this is better for people.
Yeah, it's when my father died. Yeah, because
and we have new imaging technology coming to our community that improves stroke care by early detection and diagnosis. So their imaging is going to be able to diagnose people who may be going to be having a stroke rather than just after they've had a stroke, and we can prevent them. And so that's going to be added to our lab. Their staffing up has been seeing some positive gains in the last little while. They have 34 new staff, and the recruitment bonus has really, really helped, but that may be coming to an end soon. They talked about programs for educating people where they can get their home care aid people to LPN here in the community and through VIU, and the LPN to RN and RN to practitioner. And so those are all going to be accessible through the VIU campus. And that's freaking amazing. we've been advocating for that for a while now. The mental health and substance use for children and youth team, they've staffed up and they have 118 youth have gone through and used that services. They have 15 active clients, and they have the average clinician has a caseload of about 23, and they have a wait list of about 15 right now for child and youth mental health. Whatever they're calling that team. So they're trying to create a system that has no wrong entry point, where all points lead to the services, and you're not having to go through this particular gate or that particular gate. And the Foundry will contribute to that when that happens. And they find that there is a challenge around transportation for youth that are coming from their clients. The information is the challenge around transportation is one of the biggest barriers to services for youth in our community. I didn't bring up the fact that our Sangha bus is ending at the end of December, which makes that worse. But we do hope that that will transition into on-demand transit through the BC Transit system with a cost share. What else is worth saying? The MICLAC, they were talking about the MICLAC process, and we did have a little bit of a conversation around funding the infrastructure capital as opposed to just the operating. We love that they're going to do the operating, but it is a bit of a struggle for very small communities to fund that capital, particularly like there's some cost overruns. Where do we get it from, right? And we're hoping for some provincial help on that one. Where there's a bunch of notes I have that are kind of about aftercare clinicians and seniors and home health, how that visioning our master plan should work, their Indigenous cultural safety plan and that they've been working on with Cohaman has been making progress, the complex care housing. The 4 beds in Cohaman is up and running and operational. And they have like a process of sharing history, people doing the sharing history of T-Squat, the treaty and the wellness. And they're trying to do it in safe environments because they want the folks who are learning to be there because they want to learn, not for it to be a rough ride. And so this was coming from Marlene, who was at the meeting, and she's talking about how they're really focusing their efforts on all of the cultural understanding, the learnings, and the things that they participate, being with folks who really want to be there. And they really think that some of the other hard lifting that has to be done is not in their bailiwick at this point, and that should be us to figure out. And I don't blame them. The housing challenge, we asked them about it. They said the apartments next door have helped a lot. So the Veyron apartments are allowing that transition housing for new people coming in, and they're finding that people are not struggling with housing so much. They can get into the apartments and then figure out the longer term after that. And so that is no longer a barrier for recruitment. The barrier they're now having is the childcare. Yeah. That's not news to me. The drug checking services in our area are temporarily on hold, and people can't get that service right now because the folks who are trained up to do that are not available right now. So within our community, they're not available, and Cohaman's also is not available because they got different jobs or whatever, or moved to a different place or got too busy. And so we need to have more people staffed up in order to provide that service with the spectrometer again.
Okay.
OPS is Sunday 11 to 6 and Saturday 9 to 6, and it's located at what do they call that building?
That's from the Scotiabank.
They have a name for it.
Used to be a medical building.
It's got a big sign. It's got a name for it. And I keep forgetting the name for it. But anyway, that's where it is.
Roots or something.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you. And so actually I've kind of also attend on the same days the education subcat. And what the education subcat right now is looking for to help them is they're looking for documentaries of drug use in the trades. So if anyone has knows about a good documentary film that is talking about drug use in trades, which is a huge issue here in Powell River.
Everywhere, by the way.
Yeah, I'm focused locally because that's who I'm working with, but they were hoping to add find a documentary about it so that they could use it as part of their educational processes. Early July, they have the Youth Cat has training for naloxone in the library scheduled, so that information will be available through the Youth Cat and the library. International Overdose Day is August 31st. And they are trying to plan activities to go on that day. And they're looking to maybe submit a grant application to Catapult to help them support their youth cat. And the next education subcat is Friday, June 27th. There was a cat on Monday and I could not attend. None of us that were busy, like we had a lot going on Monday and we had to miss that one. So the next thing on my list of my report is I have 2 resolutions that I'm sponsoring going to council next week on June 5th. And one is about forestry and hinges on trying to ask the government to solve problems with regulatory certainty, because we've had huge undercuts in the province, which are mainly due to an inability to get permits on time and the regulatory uncertainty of even getting the permits at all within a timely fashion, and sometimes
in forestry.
In forestry,
okay, thank you.
Yes, in forestry. So the resolution focuses on the government trying to make sure there's regulatory certainty that allows companies to access the AAC that they have. It isn't about increasing AAC, sure. It's about getting rid of that undercut. And doing what we can around that. And it also says the other uncertainty aspects of that permitting process have to do with lack of agreements with First Nations throughout the province that's curtailing access to timber. And, you know, so get out there and have some agreements that's sort that certainty out, and whatever that agreement looks like, and have a stream, get your ducks in a row for your permitting process to make it less cumbersome and timely. And then the other one, interestingly enough, I worked with Jan Stakov of Texada Island, and we are going to bring forward we decided together on wording for a resolution for cigarette butts. And that is because it had a resolution back in 2016 and it was passed, but nothing happened. And that one was for a money return system, and nobody wants to do that. So we're actually saying, okay, well, we just want you to mandate that whoever's selling these has to have a return system in place, and or get rid of non-biodegradable butts altogether, just make it prohibit them. And that's because currently they're creating a toxic effect on all of our aquatic systems, whether they be freshwater or marine, and they're killing things, and it's bad. I went to the Red Dress Walk, and I loved the JI training that we had. I also attended our first opening farmers market earlier in May, or was it the end of April? I can't remember which, probably early May. And I thought that was wonderful.
Well, what I like to hear out of your report, very fulsome, by the way, but there's a lot of actual things happening in a positive sense. Like a lot of the things that you touched on, we're moving ahead and we're showing some progress. So thank you for that. I'll try to be as brief as I can, because as you know, Area A is always busy. But May 2nd, to their credit, so ADM, so Assistant Deputy Minister James Mack and Executive Director Ted Zimmerman of Walrus, so Water, Lands, Resource Stewardship. They did me the courtesy of meeting with the receiver and I for Lund Water. And we had a great chat at that level, right, without the minister. And I was able to do a lot of what we did today, fill in the blanks, but focus on solutions, like small ones. Some of them are little wins, or some of them are bigger ideas. But what came out of it was that we can actually do things. And this wasn't just Lund. Lund is a case study, but this is because in our region and in all regions of BC, this is an issue. So I got to give them a lot of credit. I won't go on about it. 2 pages of notes, but really, I mentioned it earlier, working with Brittany Anderson and her new ministry and all the different players to bring it together because everybody has a piece of that. Yeah, so tons on that one. May 1st, there was a webinar on the SWIA that's part of the foundation agreement for the Sechalt Nation that does come up into our area. There's a piece on Texada and there's some south of town in our region that are affected by that. And so I encourage you, if you haven't checked it out, there is a webinar on environment stewardship, economic prosperity, culture, heritage, language, etc. That was on May 1st. So you can look that up. And again, that's their situation, but it's very informative. Got over to Savory. Sorry, before I got to Savory, I guess I got the courtesy of a meeting with Chair Brander and Denise Smith from Tla'amin Nation and some of the planning staff and our staff. And really the message was, as the OCP for Savory unfolds, Denise is a property owner for one thing, but also working with the archaeological branch of Tla'amin, has identified that quite simply, some people are digging without checking in with the nation on Savory. This was about Savory, but of course it applies to our other regions. And she made some, I'm learning as I go constantly. I'll learn till I'm done, of course, but the original ARC studies were only sort of from the shoreline, right? If you think about it, those early studies weren't in depth. So those are really good things for people to think about as they're building. So the nice part about our conversation was we can identify all the pain points for everybody. But again, this was about solutions. And really what it is education. The biggest thing we can do, whether it's with the OCP, Tla'amin, and together, Denise had great ideas, kiosks that can be put up that educate people about what the heck we're talking about here, right? And links and different information. She suggested examples of actual artifacts that have been found that you could put in a little display case. This is, hey, if you come across this stuff, those are awesome. Patrols with the guardians, right? The nation has guardians. For us as leaders, I mentioned this, to understand those, maybe we shouldn't be recommending tourism and other things in some of these areas. Drip up and the recent work on Savory. So that was awesome, which led to a subsequent meeting. Denise came over with Randy Neill, attended Savory Island, and to her credit, she invited me along for the ride. We had Kathleen Osler from the cleanup, the beach cleanup effort on Savory. I just was happy that I was invited, because for us to be able to listen to what's going on the ground with your MLA was important. Got some feedback that, there's conspiracy theories about who you're going with, but I'll be quite open to everybody. Didn't you rather have me participating and paying attention? So I thought it was super cool. Again, we were able to focus on Tla'amin's considerations, the OCP, environment, renaming qathet. We saw that today. Like, all these things are ongoing, and it was just a super cool day. And I got to give Minister Neill credit. She's trying to understand the issues in her constituency on the ground. And there was some hard conversations about some issues, because as we know, the BC government affects our lives the most of any level of government. When you mentioned, we got down to see, I checked in with the Oakover Ratepayers Association. They had some concerns around fire load from the recent harvesting right next to their homes down in Oakover. And I thought that was very good of them to identify that. We fed that back through our folks here at the district, just so they know that there's that risk. And then Mosaic set up a meeting. So Chair Brander and I and Director Fall were able to go and put boots on the ground in that area, and have Mosaic senior leadership, by the way, showed up from the island and explained in detail how they harvested, why they did what they did, how they replanted, fire mitigation, and on and on and on. So again, taking the time to just tell us how the facts of the matter and the process. So I thought that was excellent as well. The committee training, I thought was great. Anytime we can look at ourselves And as a group, we don't always get to be honest with each other about our feelings and stuff. So that was actually good. And like you said, if we get better communication tools, it's better for everybody. CIMAC, we had a recent Marine Advisory Committee meeting on Savory, which again, there's lots going on there. I encourage you to look at the minutes if you're interested. There's just a ton going on Savory. I'm almost done. Well, I'm sort of almost done. We talked about Randine. We were also able to stop at the volunteer fire department, which was really cool. Her dad was a volunteer firefighter, so we really had a lot to talk about there. And Chief Philpott, thanks for helping us out there. May 22nd, Oliver Regional Cabin Owners Association. I missed last year's AGM, and Director Gisborne and I attended. It was very well attended, and even the board that they have was like, wow, what's going on? Everybody must have been an off night. The Carlson Club main room was packed. They got an update from Western, Evolugen. We talked about some of that in our meeting yesterday about harvesting up Powell Lake and stuff, and the issues that they're dealing with the province. And tenure is one of the main ones, and wastewater and gray water. But it was interesting to kind of realize that they're very low on the priority with the BC government. So even though those issues are identified, as far as housing and all that stuff, it's kind of get to them later. But there's an application just for people looking. If you're on Powell Lake, contact the association, follow the process so that you're not left out of the process for tenure. So that was a good one. Oh boy, I think I'm done. So, and there's lots more that's going on. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. So, yes.
I just remembered I actually missed something because
okay, go ahead.
I'm actually scheduled with any date. Very quick.
Okay.
Paget Road has an access up to West Lake. I know this has come up in the past. You know, they tried to be blocked off and they got opened up for accessing the lake. In the last couple of weeks, someone has gone in, put in more material, filled and graded, and it's great. And I asked Chris Rodman at the cabin owners who represents Evolution. He said it wasn't them. I've been trying to find out who was it that did this wonderful work, which is getting people from not parking on Paget to go up to the lake, and now they're going up there and using it. So if anyone knows who actually did it, let me know.
Probably better if it remains unsaid. So
just to let people know that if you do go up to West Lake for a hike, please don't park on Paget. Yeah. Please go and use the pull-off that has now been all nicely graded, because it's a traffic concern when you got people all over Paget in that straight stretch. That's it.
Safety first, thanks.
And some people call it Hamel Lake.
Yes.
With West Lake, it's West Hamel Lake, or
I call it West Lake,
depending on which map you look at.
I'm gonna herd the cats. We don't have a consent agenda, no resolutions. We have a report 13.1. Yes. Throw your hand. You want to slow me down here, I know.
What I was just going to say is right before the meeting, we found out that order of submission is not a priority this year. So I was maybe going to request that the board approve attendance, but if you guys would submit meeting requests by next Wednesday, I can present them at the next meeting for consideration. So I'll send a reminder.
Should we actually move this?
I'll move it.
Director Gisborne, Director McCormick, any discussion?
Look forward to attending. That's it.
Okay. Is it clear to everybody what the corporate officer said? It's in the report. It's very time sensitive, but I think we've got a little bit we can work with.
We do.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Seeing no others, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
I have a question.
Beth?
Is Michelle coming to UBCM this year?
There will be a staff member in attendance this year.
You're not sure who yet. Okay.
Yes, we are not sure who will be on leave for.
Yeah, available. Yeah. Okay, cool. We're gonna move down to question period.
Hello, Chair Galinsky from the Peak on board here. I don't have any questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Paul. Anybody else online? I don't think so. No. All right, Director Gisborne. Oh, sorry, corporate officer.
Something else?
Yes, thank you. I submitted something to you via email to add. It's section 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and the provincial government or federal government or both, or between provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party.
I got the email.
Director Gisborne.
Okay, I will move that the board move in camera. That the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 91. Let's see, labor relations or other employee relations. Held discussions with regional district officers and employees respecting regional district objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98, annual regional district report, and end the consideration of whether a board meeting should be closed under provision of this subsection 2, and 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality, in this case regional district, and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government, or both and a third party.
Do I have a seconder for that long? Director Williams, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Do we have, oh, there's Director Paul.
One of those
Okay, we are going in camera.
pauses that you're like, what the hell are they talking about?
We just need to,
Director Fall, are you secure, sir?
I am all alone
Okay.
in my well-heated attic.
Oh, yeah? Like that, like when I was working a different job, I'd go up, down, I'd come down for work, and come up there by 10 o'clock. So we went damping there a couple weeks ago, though. It was.
Recording in progress.
Don't forget your.
All right.
It's been wet May.
We are back in session here with the regional district board meeting. We have a rise and report, actually 2 of them from our in-camera sessions. So the board has authorized the chief administrative officer to approve group campground fees for 2 nights in 2025, up to a maximum of $500 for the purpose of a regional district staff camp out and social. And today, the qathet Regional District won the 2025 Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators Environmental Leadership and Sustainability Award. That's a long one. In the 20,001 to 100,000 population category for the Resource Recovery Center. And it was presented the national award during I guess the Resource Recovery Center was presented the award during an award ceremony held in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, which previously we approved the CAO to attend and accept the award. And you can find a media release on the topic on the regional district website. Congrats to everybody, all the hard work on the project and winning that award. And we are adjourned. Thank you.